All right. Hey, people. Russ Jensen. So it's about 27 on the 11th day of January 2017. And wanted to once again try to make my position a little bit clear to people, understand what it is, why I'm even talking to people about these things. Law of nations, the Constitution, your sovereign authority. Uh, I'm doing it for two reasons. Um, well, actually, three. First of all, I'm doing it because um, I'm very concerned about what I see happening in our societies around the planet. What I see going on. Doing it because I'm concerned about the welfare of my children, my grandchildren, their children. Doing it because I'm concerned about the way that my elected officials, my unelected officials, my law enforcement individuals in law enforcement uh, treat me and you and other members of society. I'm doing it because I want to try to empower people. I was talking with a good friend of mine earlier. She's doing some really great things with some of this information, working on some things with the accounting practices I've talked a little bit about. She's wanting it, talking about inspiring people. Yeah, that's exactly right. But primarily doing it for the fact that I am tired of my elected officials, my unelected officials, law enforcement, people that have been given permissions to do certain things for us, uh, lying to us, lying to me, treating me like I'm a young, small, incapable child, like I'm retarded, like they don't have to answer to me. Now, people talk a lot about rights all the time, but I guess we have to ask the question of what is a right. They may really stop and think about what that is. What is right? Now, a right is simply the ability to do something. That's it. That's what a right is. Now, people talk about my constitutional rights, my natural rights. Yeah, there are rights of all kinds of different kinds of rights, okay? In all different kinds of levels, in all kinds of situations. But the one thing you have to remember about rights is that it is the ability to do something. The other thing that's very important, especially when we start talking about issues of law, those kinds of things, is the fact that a right only exists in a specific moment for a specific purpose. Once that moment and that purpose has passed, it no longer exists until the next time that you need to do something. Okay? Now, this book, Law of Nations, that I talk about all the time, explains to us very specifically what rights are, what benefits are, what obligations are, what duties are. Now, those of you that have been involved in the court systems in any kind of way or legal people uh, understand that your system is made predicated upon benefits and rights, duties and obligations. You know, everyone seems to think that I have this right, whatever that might be, and it just occurs. Okay, but what you don't understand, what you need to understand, specifically, we're talking about law now, because that's pretty much all I'm talking about, is how to interact with society, with government, through the mechanism known as law. Your rights flow from your obligations. And these obligations are reciprocating, reciprocal. You have obligations to yourself, you have obligations to other members of society have obligations to your governmental structure. Huh? And your governmental structure, your neighbors have a reciprocating obligation to you. Now, obligations are just commitments, agreements. Duties are the activities that are undertaken in order to meet that obligation. So, the rights that we acquire, the rights that we have use of that permit us to do things, come from an obligation, meeting an obligation, fulfilling a duty. And there are naturally occurring rights, the laws of nature. Then there are, and I guess considered to be perfect rights and imperfect rights, what those are. But an understanding that there are also just regular obligations that we enter into all the time, and then there are what are called indispensable obligations. These are the obligations that are brought upon us or directed to us by nature itself. We can't get out of these things; they just happen. Like gravity just happens. Okay, you can write all the laws against gravity that you want. Guess what? Gravity is still going to happen, isn't it? Okay, so these indispensable obligations, they are spelled out specifically for us in this book, Law of Nations. Now, your Constitution was designed to protect those naturally occurring indispensable obligations of nature. That's it. And when you understand that the purpose of your existence here, according to what is constitutional law, no, I didn't write this stuff, I'm just telling you how it is to work towards your own perfection and happiness. That's all the duties you owe to yourself. Once you have delegated some of your sovereign authority to another group called government to provide for your protection and provide for your benefits, and the purpose of government and the protection of government and the benefits of government is to help you work towards your perfection and happiness. That's it. That's the purpose of government. That's the purpose of your existence, to work towards your perfection. Now, in order to do that, we have to have certain rights to be able to do certain things. In order to get those rights, then we have to have what? Obligations. And since they're coming from nature, they are indispensable obligations, means ones that we cannot get out of. We have no choice but to fulfill them by doing the duties required to fulfill and meet that obligation. Now, there are only a few of them. You have an indispensable obligation of self-preservation, life, don't you? Now, you also have an indispensable obligation to be of service to your fellow members of society to the degree that it doesn't diminish your position, doesn't put you in a situation of want. Part of that is your indispensable obligation to engage in commerce. Now, commerce is more than just the exchange of goods and services, trading paper for tangible products, information, knowledge, services, those things that we engage in that people typically consider to be commerce. Because commerce is predicated upon an indispensable obligation that every single object, every single thing on this planet, living or not, engages in, which is conversion of energy from one form to another. Now, you as a living person do that all the time. A lot of things you don't even aren't conscious of, don't recognize, don't think about until it's brought to your attention. But the fact that you breathe in air, you good air in, bad air out, oxygen in, CO2 out, all those things. Okay? Respiration, your heartbeat. You eat food, you take mass, put it in your body, it's digested, converted to different forms so your body can utilize this energy. So the conversion of energy from one form to another is an indispensable obligation. Commerce, that is commerce. That is the true definition of commerce, is the exchange of energy from one form to another. Okay? Now, of course, exchanging goods and services, all those things that we do in our economies, that's a portion of it, but is not commerce itself. Commerce is the activity of exchanging energy from one form to another. Indispensable obligation, can't get out of it. No. Another indispensable obligation is endeavoring to know your Creator. Allah, Jesus, no, doesn't matter, all thousands of them. Okay, man, woman, God, goddess, okay? Whatever. I don't know. And even if you have the belief that there is no such thing as a creator, well, that's okay too. You have an indispensable obligation to endeavor to know your Creator. Hmm? There's certain duties that go along with that. The final one is justice. You have an indispensable obligation to engage in justice. Now, what exactly is that, justice? Is it law? Is it agreeing not to do certain things? Or is it more about honoring agreements that we make as men among men? Contracting agreements. Part of that understanding, justice, contracting agreements, is the fact that those must be predicated upon honesty and truthfulness. Now, you as a person walking around here, you have at different times, depending on what you're doing, you have different personas, don't you? You have a private persona, you have a public persona, and on numerous levels. So when you're at home, in your private space, in your shower, stripped of all of your clothes, all those things, that private persona doing whatever it might be doing has a different set of duties and obligations to itself, different set of responsibilities, expectations. Than when you're out fully clothed, in public, at your work, your job, interacting with other people, engaging in contracting agreements, okay? Public and private. Now, part of the problem is that our governments have taken that concept, that idea, that understanding. There's a private person, there's a public person, and there are, right? And added conditions to those states of being that they don't fully explain to you. And that's part of the problem. That's part of what I'm trying to address here, was going to be doing over the next little while. Right? But on a different level, there's private persons, you and I, members of society, average citizens walking around, working down at the store, working over the plant, truck drivers, whatever, all those different things are. Okay, we're engaging in private enterprise, private commerce. And then there are those members who have felt the call for civic duty, public service, operating in the offices of government as a public person. But the fact that I might be a public officer during the day, when I go home into my private space, take my clothes off, stand in my shower, I am a private person. I still have the authority of my office if need be at that particular time, but the office is not me and I'm not the office. I'm just exercising that authority. But in my private capacity as a man, you in your private capacity as a man, just member of society, we have a duty and obligation to be honest and true. Part of our indispensable obligation coming from commerce, from justice. contracting, agreeing. But are we? No, we aren't. Right? We like to believe that we are, and for the most part we are, but not always. I know I'm the last person that should be picking up a stone to throw at anybody. I've been dishonest. I've been untrue. I've done a lot of things that I'm not proud of. A lot of things that I can't take back. I'm not going to go into the whole concept of forgiveness and what all that stuff is right now. Right? Fact of the matter is that in private society, we have permission to do anything we want at any time, don't you? There might be consequences, but you have the ability to do everything, including being dishonorable and untrue. As a member of the public authority, acting in the capacity of a government official, you don't have permission to do whatever you want at any time. You can as your private person, but not as a government official with that authority. That authority, the office, is created with strict guidelines, strict rules, what applies. And in the capacity of a public person, you, in that capacity, do not have the ability to be dishonest or untrue without violating your indispensable obligation of being honest and true, without violating the duties, your known duty attendant with the office. You don't have permission to lie to me or any of the private members of the society who have delegated some of our lawful sovereign authority to you to act on our behalf, our mutual safety and benefit. One of the obligations is to be honest and true at all times. You don't get permission to tell me it's none of my business. And I come asking you, why are there inconsistencies in your accounting reports? Why are there vast numbers, huge, gigantic numbers of value that have the appearance seem like they are missing? When I ask you where they're at and who gave you permission to move them there, on what authority are you acting, you tell me it's none of my business. You can't attend this closed door meeting. Now, I understand there are certain aspects, certain things in government, operation of government, their internal affairs that aren't open for public. Okay? Certain things that are. Now, the other problem too, our legislative bodies doing a lot of things they don't have permission to do. And when I ask them about why they're doing it, they lie to me. They lie to you. I don't have a problem with Social Security. I have a problem with Federal Reserve banking system. Social Security is a benefit. Government's created for benefits, for my benefit, your benefit, our mutual safety and benefit, to help us work towards our perfection. But to tell me that the use of that number, the use of that benefit, taking that benefit, the use of those that monetary system that the government has made available for me or to me in meeting their obligations of providing a monetary system, that's one of their obligations that they have laid out right there in that book, Law of Nations. Okay? But to tell me that my use of those things then removes from me, takes me out of the ability to have the protections of the very document that created that government that's providing those benefits to me, is absolutely asinine, ridiculous. And when I come asking you about it, you tell me none of my business. Huh? You lie to me about the jurisdictional authority that you're bringing to bear upon me. in a particular situation, when I say to you, hey, that's not one of the allowable forms of law, you tell me you're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. It is. We can do whatever we want. We're the government. That guy over there, if you say one more word to me, is going to put you in handcuffs for contempt. You're challenging my authority. Is that what they do? Huh? That is what I have a problem with. And that's what I'm trying to help people understand what your rights are, what they really are, and where they come from, what your duties and obligations are, and what the duties and obligations of your government officials are, and the limits of that power, and what the authority is that you have, that I have, that is given to us in the same document that creates your federal government, which then creates your state governments. Tells me exactly what I can do when my officials in government then violate that contract, because that's what that is. When they attack the Constitution, when they wage war upon it, when they violate their known duties as a public official by lying, by being dishonest, by being untrue, by stealing from me not only the value out of my economy through your wealth exchange mechanisms that you don't explain to people properly, and allow a lot of things to happen in that in the financial sector that are criminal, and you guys know it. But to treat me like I am stupid, that I am a subject, that I have somehow given up my sovereign authority, all of it, when I delegated a small portion to you to do some certain things on my behalf so that I can then work towards my own perfection. And upon achieving or working towards my perfection, I make myself better. I'm better, my society's better. My society's better, the planet's better. That's the concept, that's the idea. That's constitutional law. It doesn't really matter if you believe me or not, think I'm full of shit or not. Those are written words. Constitutional law, law of nations. So, understanding, people, what your rights really are, what rights are, where they come from. You know, we'll be getting a lot more specific to those things. The purpose of this is not to break or the public tranquility. We all have a duty to maintain public peace at all times. Okay? So we don't do protesting. Okay? The letters I send are asking for information and requesting that my public officials do their duty to me. Now, this individual, Snow Tiger, Leopard, or whatever it was, it sent me a comment earlier on one of, I don't know if it was Facebook, YouTube, whatever, right? About the legislative body. Can they legislate things? Sure they can. Right? Didn't think they would answer my letters. I'm pretty sure they answer my letters. In fact, when I go up there and have conversations with my elected officials, the chief counsel for my governor, they do things that we ask them to do. So I know this stuff works. It's not designed to make a problem. It's not designed for anarchy. It's not designed to just be able to get out of your duties and obligations, your responsibilities that you have. No, it's to make sure that, number one, you understand what those duties and obligations are, what your rights and benefits are, and also that the government understands that you understand. And that they begin to operate within the proper bounds of their authority, which they're not doing right now. My legislative body has a lot of authority to do a lot of things, but only in the proper jurisdiction and only in the proper process, proper procedures, which they aren't following. So, love everybody, and I will talk to you some more tomorrow. Got a lot of exciting things that we're working on, websites and getting this information put out in a format that's a lot more engaging than me. Okay? But it's important to understand. This is simple, basic concept. And the thing is, they understand it. And they also know that you don't. And they take advantage of that. And that's what I'm trying to help people come to an understanding of. Okay? Okay? Those men in those private courts are acting as pirates on the seas of commerce. They're doing it under force. They're doing it under the rules of conquest. Okay? And the people that have the ability to perhaps prevent that can't until they are properly invoked. Their authority is properly invoked by you. Your capacity as a lawful sovereign authority standing in the one supreme court under Article 3. Okay? So, talk to everybody later. Love you, and have a good night.